Man, you hear about some wild stuff, but this gateway experiment, this is next level. We're talking about the CIA, right? The guys in the shadows. They weren't just looking for spies on the ground, they were looking for spies of the mind. Imagine that, deep in the Cold War, paranoia was everywhere. The Soviets were supposedly training psychic soldiers. Seriously. So the CIA thought, we gotta get in on this, we can't be left behind. This wasn't just a fleeting idea, they poured resources into it. They wanted to unlock the secrets of human consciousness to see if they could bend reality itself. It sounds like science fiction, but these were declassified government documents, folks. The whole thing kicked off with this guy, Bob Monroe. He wasn't some spook initially, he was a radio executive. But Monroe started having these experiences, out-of-body experiences. He found that certain sound frequencies could mess with your head in a good way, or at least in an interesting way. He discovered he could induce altered states of consciousness. Think about that for a second. Just by listening to sounds, you could potentially leave your body. The CIA, always with their ear to the ground for anything unusual, anything that could give them an edge, they heard about Monroe. And they got very, very interested in what he was doing. This was the genesis of something truly mind-bending. So, the agency, they didn't just invite him for coffee, they commissioned a report. This report, written by U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Wayne M. McDonnell back in 1983, laid out the whole gateway experience. It was a training system. A system designed to push human consciousness beyond the physical, beyond space, beyond time. Can you even wrap your head around that? They were trying to train people to access different dimensions, maybe even travel through time with their minds. The goal was to see if they could use these altered states for intelligence gathering, psychic spies. It's the kind of thing you see in movies, but they were dead serious about making it real. The implications are just staggering. If they could actually do this, what would it mean? The ability to know things without being there, to influence events from afar. The report itself is dense, full of scientific jargon mixed with what sounds like spiritual philosophy. It talks about vibrations, frequencies, and achieving a state of frequency-following response. This wasn't just some side project, it was a serious attempt to weaponize the unknown aspects of human potential. The fact that these documents are now out in the open for anyone to read just blows my mind. It makes you wonder what else is still locked away, hidden from public view. So how did they think they could actually do this? How do you train someone to, leave their body or see into the future? The core of the gateway process was something called hemisync. Sounds technical, right? It stands for hemisphere synchronization. The idea was to get the left and right sides of your brain working together, perfectly in sync. Bob Monroe, the radio guy turned consciousness explorer, he pioneered this. He figured out that if you play slightly different sound frequencies into each ear, they call these binaural beats, your brain tries to find a common tone. This process, he claimed, could lead to incredible states of awareness. Think about your brain for a minute. The left side is usually the logical, analytical part, the right side is more creative, intuitive. Most of the time, one side is more dominant than the other. Hemisync aimed to balance them out, to create a kind of whole brain state. The theory was that when your brain waves are synchronized in this special way, you can access deeper levels of consciousness, levels that are normally hidden from us in our everyday waking lives. It's like tuning a radio to a distant station. You just need the right frequency, the right conditions, and suddenly, you're picking up signals from somewhere else entirely. This was the key mechanism they hoped to exploit. Participants would listen to these specific tones, often through headphones, in a controlled environment. The sounds weren't just random noise, they were carefully crafted audio patterns. The goal was to guide the listener into a state of deep relaxation, a profound calm. From this calm, the mind could supposedly open up. It could become receptive to experiences beyond the ordinary. The Gateway Report describes this as creating an energy-resonant pattern in the brain. It's almost like they were trying to turn the human brain into an antenna, capable of receiving information from where? That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The universe, other dimensions? The CIA believed this synchronization could open a portal, a gateway, hence the name of the experiment. A portal to higher consciousness, to expanded awareness. It's a pretty radical idea, especially for a government agency known for its hard-nosed pragmatism. But they were desperate for an edge during the Cold War. They were willing to explore anything, no matter how outlandish it seemed on the surface. The promise of hemisync was that it could provide a reliable method for ordinary people to achieve extraordinary states of mind, states previously only accessible to mystics or those who'd had spontaneous, unexplainable experiences. It was about systematizing the weird. Once you're in this hemisync state, then what? Well, the gateway process wasn't just about getting your brain hemispheres to play nice. It was about guiding you through different levels of consciousness. They actually mapped these out. They called them focus levels. Each level represented a deeper, more profound state of awareness, with its own unique characteristics and possibilities. It's like descending into the ocean. The deeper you go, the stranger and more wondrous the environment becomes. These weren't just vague feelings. They were distinct states they believed could be trained and accessed deliberately. The first significant level they talked about was Focus 10. This was described as a state of mind awake, body asleep. Imagine that. Your physical body is completely relaxed, maybe even in a sleep-like paralysis, but your mind is fully alert, fully conscious. This state alone was considered incredibly powerful. They believed that in Focus 10 you could enhance your body's natural healing abilities. You could also begin to develop psychic abilities like remote viewing, seeing things far away without actually being there. It was the entry point, the first step beyond ordinary waking consciousness, a foundational state for further exploration. Then you've got Focus 12. This is where things start to get even wilder. In Focus 12, your awareness expands beyond the limits of your physical body. Participants in Monroe Institute programs which continued this work reported incredible experiences at this level. They talked about meeting their higher selves, their true expanded identity beyond the everyday ego. And get this, they believed you could use something called patterning. This is essentially manifesting, projecting your thoughts out into the universe to influence reality, to make desired outcomes happen. We're talking about the power of intention, backed by a focused, altered state of consciousness. And it didn't stop there. Focus 15 was even deeper. Here, participants reported experiences that transcended linear time. They could perceive the past, present, and future as a unified whole. Think about that. Accessing a state where time as we know it dissolves. Some even reported channeling a godlike figure or a universal consciousness. It's heavy stuff, man. The CIA was documenting procedures to reach states where people felt they were interacting with the fundamental fabric of existence, possibly even the source of all creation. Whether you believe it or not, the fact they were seriously investigating this is mind-blowing. Now, this is where the Gateway Report really takes a sharp turn into the deeply philosophical, the truly out there. The document doesn't just talk about brainwaves and altered states, it tries to explain the very nature of consciousness and reality itself. And the theory it puts forward, it's that humans are essentially holograms. Yeah, you heard me. Holograms. Not in the Star Wars Help Me, Obi-Wan Kenobi sense, but in a much more profound metaphysical way. It suggests our physical bodies are just one aspect of a much larger energetic pattern. This is some deep cosmic stuff for a government intelligence agency. The report posits that the entire universe is a gigantic, vibrating hologram, a universal hologram, and each one of us, every human being, is also a hologram, a smaller individual hologram that is constantly interacting with and attuned to this larger cosmic hologram. It's all about energy exchange. According to this theory, our consciousness arises from this interaction. We perceive reality because our individual holographic energy field is resonating with the universal holographic energy field. It's like we're tuning into a cosmic broadcast, and what we experience as reality is the show we're tuned into. It's a radical departure from the idea of a purely material world. Think about what a hologram is. Every part of a holographic plate contains the information for the whole image. If you break off a piece, you don't just get a fragment, you get a smaller, less detailed version of the entire picture. The Gateway Report suggests we are like that. Each of us contains the pattern of the whole universe within us. This idea of as above, so below is ancient, but here it is, popping up in a CIA document about psychic spying. It implies that by understanding ourselves, by going deep within our own consciousness, we can understand the universe itself, because, in a way, we, the universe in miniature. This concept of humans as holographic beings, attuned to a universal hologram through energy exchange, was fundamental to their understanding of how the gateway process could work. If we are energy patterns resonating with a larger energy pattern, then perhaps by altering our own frequency, our own vibration, we can change how we interact with that larger pattern. This could explain out-of-body experiences, remote viewing, even influencing events. It suggests that consciousness isn't just stuck inside our skulls, it's part of a vast interconnected web of energy. The CIA was exploring the idea that we are far more than just flesh and blood. We are beings of light and information. Section 5. The universe as a hologram, quantum clues and cosmic codes. So, this idea of a holographic universe, it wasn't just pulled out of thin air by the CIA or Bob Monroe. It actually has some interesting parallels with concepts in theoretical physics, particularly quantum physics. Now, I'm no physicist, but even I can see the connections here. Quantum physics tells us that at the most fundamental level, reality is weird. Particles can be in multiple places at once. They can be entangled, connected across vast distances instantaneously. It challenges our everyday, common-sense understanding of how things work, and this weirdness opens the door to some pretty wild possibilities. The Gateway report itself touches on these ideas, suggesting that the principles of quantum mechanics support the notion that thoughts can influence reality. If everything is energy, and consciousness can interact with energy, then perhaps our minds can have a direct effect on the physical world. The holographic principle in physics, while complex, suggests that the information contained in a volume of space can be represented on a lower dimensional boundary, like a hologram. Some scientists, like David Bohm, have explored the idea of an implicate order, a deeper, enfolded level of reality, from which our explicit, unfolded reality emerges. This sounds a lot like the universal hologram the CIA was talking about. Think about it. If consciousness is not just a byproduct of the brain, but something more fundamental, something that can exist outside of space and time, as the report suggests, then the universe itself might be structured like a thought. The report describes consciousness as a pool of limitless, timeless perception, having neither beginning nor end. This aligns with some interpretations of quantum theory, like the Penrose-Hameroff-Orch theory, which proposes that consciousness arises from quantum processes within the brain, but can also exist holographically in the universe. It's a mind-bending convergence of mysticism and cutting-edge science. The implications are huge. If the universe is a hologram and consciousness is fundamental, then maybe things like telepathy, precognition and psychokinesis aren't so paranormal after all. Maybe they are natural abilities that arise from our connection to this holographic matrix. The CIA report, in its own way, was trying to find a scientific framework for these phenomena. It was looking for the cosmic codes that would allow them to unlock these abilities. The idea that our minds are not separate from the universe but deeply interwoven with its fabric is a powerful one, and it seems the intelligence community, at least for a while, took it very seriously. Section 6. Spies of the Mind, MKUltra, Remote Viewing and the Psychic Arms Race. The Gateway experiment wasn't an isolated incident. It wasn't just some one-off wacky idea the CIA had. It was part of a much broader and often darker history of the agency's fascination with the human mind and its potential for espionage. During the Cold War, the fear of falling behind the Soviets in any area, especially unconventional ones, was intense. This led to a kind of psychic arms race. If the enemy was developing mind control or psychic spies, then America needed to be doing it too, and doing it better. This mindset fueled decades of clandestine research. Probably the most infamous of these programs was MKUltra. This was a truly disturbing series of experiments. They were trying to develop techniques for mind control, for information extraction, for breaking down human will. They used drugs, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, psychological torture, all sorts of unethical methods. The goal was to see if they could create sleeper agents, or extract secrets from unwilling subjects. MKUltra is a dark stain on the CIA's history, a clear example of how far they were willing to go in their pursuit of an edge. It shows the lengths they would explore when it came to manipulating human consciousness. Then there was the research into remote viewing. This was less about direct mind control and more about psychic spying. The idea was that certain individuals could be trained to see distant locations or events using only their minds. They ran programs at places like the Stanford Research Institute, testing people who claimed to have these abilities. Some of the results were apparently intriguing enough to keep the funding going for years. The Gateway experiment, with its focus on out-of-body experiences and accessing information beyond the physical senses, fits right into this pattern. It was another attempt to harness the untapped powers of the mind for intelligence purposes. Despite the confident tone of the Gateway report, and all the resources poured into these various mind-bending projects, the CIA never really succeeded in creating a reliable core of psychic super spies. They didn't crack time travel, at least not in any practical, weaponizable way. Many of these programs were eventually shut down, often due to lack of consistent results, ethical concerns, or changing priorities. But the declassified documents like the Gateway Report give us a chilling glimpse into how seriously these possibilities were taken at the highest levels of government. They were willing to explore the very edges of reality and beyond. Section 7. Declassified and viral gateways' shocking return to the spotlight. So, this Gateway Report written back in 1983, declassified in 2003, you'd think it would just fade into obscurity, right? Another dusty old government document. But no, in the last few years, especially around late 2024 and early 2025, this thing has exploded back into public consciousness. Thanks to the internet, thanks to platforms like TikTok, people are discovering these declassified files, and their minds are being blown. Suddenly, everyone's talking about hemisync, holographic universes, and the CIA's attempts to train psychic spies. It's like a conspiracy theory that turned out to be true, or at least, officially investigated. You've got TikTokers, YouTubers, podcasters dissecting these documents. People like Sarah Holcomb, who helped bring a lot of attention to it, are breaking down the complex ideas into more digestible chunks, and the public is eating it up. Why? Because it's fascinating, it's a little bit scary, and it validates a lot of ideas that were previously considered fringe. The idea that the government was seriously looking into out-of-body experiences, alternate dimensions, and the power of consciousness, that's a pretty big deal. It makes you wonder what else they know, or what they're looking into right now that we won't find out about for another 20 years. The renewed interest isn't just about shock value, though. For many people, these documents are a form of validation. If you've ever been interested in meditation, astral projection, lucid dreaming, or the nature of consciousness, seeing the CIA take these things seriously lends a certain credibility. The Monroe Institute, which Bob Monroe founded, is still around. They still offer programs to explore consciousness, things like exploring past lives and mental mediumship. They're aiming for a global awakening of human consciousness, and these declassified reports are like rocket fuel for that kind of public interest and discussion. The fact that you can go online right now and read this CIA report for yourself is pretty amazing. It's not hidden away in some secret vault anymore. This transparency, even if it took decades, allows everyone to engage with these incredible ideas. It sparks debate, it fuels curiosity, and yeah, it probably fuels a few new conspiracy theories too. But it also opens up a conversation about the nature of reality, the potential of the human mind, and the lengths to which powerful organizations will go to understand and control the unknown. The Gateway Experiment is no longer a secret, it's a phenomenon. Section 8. Ancient Echoes, Modern Puzzles, Consciousness Across Time. What's really wild about the Gateway Experiment and its theories is how much they echo ancient wisdom. You read that CIA report talking about universal consciousness, energy fields, and transcending the physical body, and it sounds incredibly similar to ideas from thousands of years ago. Think about Eastern philosophies like Buddhism and Hinduism. They've been talking about interconnectedness, a universal life force, prana or chi, and the ability to achieve enlightened states of awareness through meditation for millennia. These weren't just philosophical musings, they were practical paths to understanding the nature of reality. Then you look at various mystical traditions. Hebrew mysticism, Kabbalah, talks about different levels of soul and reality. Christian mystics have described ecstatic experiences and direct communion with the divine. Indigenous cultures all over the world have shamanic practices that involve entering altered states of consciousness to heal, to gain wisdom, or to journey to other realms. It's like humanity has always been fascinated by what lies beyond the veil of ordinary perception. The Gateway Experiment, in its own clinical, government-sanctioned way, was tapping into this ancient stream of human inquiry. It just used terms like hemisync and focus levels instead of chakras or samadhi. But here's the kicker. Despite all this ancient wisdom, and despite the CIA's focused research, the scientific community today is still kind of scratching its head when it comes to consciousness. There's no single universally accepted scientific theory of what consciousness is, where it comes from, or how it works. The 1983 CIA report, for all its technical language, expressed a certain confidence in its model of reality, but modern neuroscience and philosophy are still locked in deep debate. The hard problem of consciousness, why and how we have subjective experiences, remains one of the biggest unsolved mysteries in science. So you have this weird situation. Ancient traditions claiming deep insights, a secret government program exploring radical theories, and mainstream science still trying to figure out the basics. It makes you think, maybe those ancient mystics were onto something profound. Maybe the CIA, in its quest for an advantage, stumbled across some fundamental truths about existence. Or maybe it's all just a fascinating example of how far human beings will go to try and understand the biggest questions of all. Who are we? Why are we here? And what is the nature of this reality we find ourselves in? The Gateway Papers don't give us all the answers, but they sure make the questions a lot more interesting. Section 9. The portals pull enduring mysteries and validated truths. When you really step back and look at the whole Gateway Experiment saga, it's more than just a weird historical footnote. It's a testament to the enduring human fascination with the unknown, with the potential that lies hidden within our own minds. The fact that an organization as pragmatic and, let's be honest, as ruthless as the CIA would dedicate serious time and resources to exploring astral projection and holographic universes tells you something. It tells you that these ideas, however far-fetched they might seem to some, have a powerful pull, a sense that there's something more to reality than what we perceive with our five senses. For a lot of people who've always felt there was more to life, more to their own consciousness, these declassified documents are a huge "I told you so" moment. Think about all the folks interested in meditation, spirituality, psychic phenomena, or even just UFOs and unexplained mysteries. They've often been dismissed as kooky or naive. But here's the government itself, in black and white, saying, yeah, we looked into that. We thought it was plausible enough to study. It validates the legitimacy of asking these big, unconventional questions. It suggests that the fringes of human experience might hold keys to understanding the core of reality. Of course, the Gateway report didn't provide definitive proof of psychic powers or time travel. The CIA, as far as we know, didn't end up with an army of interdimensional spies. But the experiment opened a door. Or at least it showed us a door that might exist. It raised profound questions about the nature of consciousness, its relationship to the physical world, and the very fabric of the cosmos. These are questions that science is still grappling with, that philosophers have debated for centuries, and that individuals continue to explore through personal experience and spiritual practice. The mystery remains, compelling as ever. Ultimately, the Gateway Experiment serves as a powerful reminder. A reminder that reality might be far stranger, far more malleable, and far more interconnected than our everyday assumptions allow. It encourages us to keep an open mind, to question, to explore, whether it's through scientific investigation, personal introspection, or just by reading declassified government documents that make you say, whoa, the journey to understand consciousness is one of the most important adventures humanity can undertake. The portal, it seems, is always there, waiting for those brave enough to peek inside and wonder what lies beyond.